You're listening to The Parallel Paths, a podcast designed to elevate your mind, body, and spirit so that you can get everything you want out of life. The only question is, are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of the Parallel Paths podcast. I'm your co-host, Makeda Moore.
And I'm your other co-host, Blair McClendon.
And we're back. And this week we are talking about how sometimes your journey of personal evolution will lead to conflicts between family and friends. And I know both Blair and I have experienced some challenges within this in our own personal journeys. And we've been told that it's going to be a lonely road. You know, I think that's something that either as an entrepreneur or, just as a leader or a high functioning person, they kind of hint on being the lone wolf kind of thing. You've heard that before?
For sure. It's just like you undertake a challenge that only few will do. So it gets to the point where like you can really only relate with few others and people who you might have been used to cross the paths with, they can no longer relate to you just based on the changes that they see as drastic.
Mm-hmm. And what I think like that's a big thing is eventually you start to, as you begin to grow, you have to acknowledge that not everyone is on this growth journey. A lot of people aren't. And as you grow, you'll begin to outgrow your surroundings. And sometimes, and oftentimes, that means your closest family and friends. Because it only made sense that you started with them, but eventually you begin to change and have different desires and ways of thinking that eventually you kind of separate. So what were some of the areas in your life that you began to change that you saw maybe like family wasn't changing and it kind of became some of a conflict?
Probably off the bat, just eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just in how I went from eating whatever, whenever to basically just plant-based. So I know for at least like the first year, maybe even two, it's kind of like shell shock. Like, no, he's serious. Like he really not eating meat like that. So
did you get any resistance or people trying to say, just eat this? Like, it's not going to hurt you?
Yeah. Like, I mean, even from eating baked goods and sweets and stuff, like, especially on my mom's side, like incredible cooks, like all my aunts be throwing down. So it's definitely tempting, and especially with all the sweets, but they'll be like, oh, well, just one piece or just taste this. And I'm like, I value way too much how I feel to even go through the sacrifice. So like, while I can appreciate something here and there, but like now I'm almost at the point to where it's like, it's been so long to where if I'm gonna deviate outside of my norm, I gotta be under like very special circumstances. Like last night I was at a birthday party, Nigerian thing. Shout out to my dog Wally.
Hey.
But like in that situation, tasting like true Nigerian cuisine, sure, I'll step outside of the box. But like for traditional, what we call in America as soul food, like I'm kind of cool on that at this point. So definitely got that resistance. But now it's more so just like he's not changing, so let's just support it or at least see what it's about.
And food was definitely a big one for me too. At the age of 10, I decided I didn't want to eat meat anymore. I would still eat fish, and I had to eat fish. Come on, like you're not getting rid of all this stuff. You need your protein. So my family was actually pretty welcoming to that, and because we also had some other family members who were vegetarians and pescatarians. However, it wasn't until I started just trying to eat clean, like cut out all the
clean.
Yeah, clean, that I got a lot more resistance. And it was like, you can't, control everything. You gotta eat. You're looking skinny. I'm like, but I feel great. And I'm eat thin regardless.
That's what I try to tell them. Like, bro, I'm naturally lean. So
and that's definitely a cultural thing. It's in a cultural thing in that, being thick and it's a sign that you're eating, so it must mean that you must have finances to eat.
For sure.
And I think that's something we have to get away from. Or even like, I know growing up, you know, we used to always have milk in the house, and you know, eventually my family. Not the beautiful thing is that although I did get some resistance, I definitely see changes in my family because of the way I was eating.
Facts. Everybody who's been around me, I mean, we talk about evolving and maybe losing some people here and there, but I'm fortunate in the sense to where um, all my day ones, like they still riding, and then they evolve with me. So that's the beauty in it. So I mean, from a business perspective or eating or whatever, it might be slow, but like they're still evolving too, and like they'll at least see what I'm trying, or they might give it a shot, and they're like, "Oh, this ain't that bad." And so I think it's just more so continuing to just do what you know is right, and then other people will kind of just follow your example, follow your lead, because I know that's happening on my side.
And I think one thing that helps people follow my lead the best, and this is advice I would give to anybody, is that you do you and you be the model and allow people to come to that decision on their own. People don't want you to tell them what to eat. Like, it's when I stopped preaching so much that I started noticing a lot of changes in the people around me about what they wanted to eat, because it was just, they saw me feeling so happy and healthy and doing all, so they were like, oh, okay, I want some of that too, rather than, because I mean, and plus at the end of the day, nobody wants their identity to be challenged. You know, people, food is such an important part, especially the Black culture, that the soul food, you know, we don't want to, that's so much of our identity that we don't want to part from that, even though it's killing us, you know, and it's just, it's such a paradigm shift that we have to do. What about media consumption? How has that evolution been for you, and has that caused any conflicts with people around you?
Yeah, because I'm not watching the news. I haven't watched the news. I don't even watch TV like that. So I kind of started to like separate from TV 2015, 16ish. Like, as cable bills just kept going up, I'm like, I really only want to watch ESPN, AMC at the time, and that was really it. Like, I
just wasn't watching Netflix.
Well, Netflix. I mean, that's not on cable though.
Oh, true.
So, Netflix, like I said, ESPN, AMC. So I remember calling the cable company and was like, "Hey, can I just get these two channels in the package? Like, I really don't care what else y'all offering." And they told me no. So I said, "Well, just cancel it off." So after that time, I was like, "All right, I'm saving money on that end from just not watching stuff that I'm just paying for." And then starting to really see how the media was controlled, and then passing that on, and like it kind of just being a natural step back for me, just from universal alignment, like not even just the cable thing and me wanting to get canceled because of price, but like everything was just kind of coming to a head to where it's like, all right, now I already knew the news was on some BS before, but like it just makes sense for me to disconnect from that. So spreading that message to my parents, like, it's too much cognitive dissonance there to where it's all they know.
Yeah.
My mom has done a better job with separating herself from it. She won't get too caught up in it, but she's still prone to turn and see what's happening or whatever. And then my dad, like, he dialed in.
So as in he's not watching it?
No, he's dialed in. Like, he's watching it. Yeah, he's watching it. So.
Yeah, I think
with him it's been a couple times, but not even in a bad way. He just don't believe what they say, and I'm like,
and that's the thing, you don't realize how manipulative television is until you take a step away from it. Then you can look back and like, oh my God, this stuff is terrible. But it takes that purging and that cleansing process of removing yourself from it, and then you can see it for what it truly is. And unfortunately, my family over time, my dad has always been, all he really watched was like NPR, C-SPAN, you know, and, you know, he would have the news on in the background, which he definitely has dialed down. And my mom, she still keeps the news on, but she started to realize, I told her, I was like, Mom, like, it contributes to underlying anxiety and all this stuff. And she's, especially now with everything's happening in the world, she has now become more aware of that, to where she's being mindful of it. Right. So now both of them are a lot more mindful in that, and they never really watch a lot of trash stuff besides like my mom watches like Housewives and stuff, and it's like me and my dad are there trying to like watch it. Can't. We're like gritting our teeth. Like it's just no sense. Like nothing of value is coming out aside from knowing where the rest of our people are because they're watching this. Like that's the only value I get from watching that stuff is knowing, okay, this is information that the people who I'm trying to communicate to are consuming. So now I know where their minds are at. But after that, just like there's no value from it. But my family is definitely there. The media consumption is an area where they definitely have evolved with me on that.
Yeah, you have to split on my side with that. I would say like even just I don't know, like for me, I've started to read more, so like that's kind of what I've used to supplement the TV aspect. And like my mom will read. She likes games too, so like if she's not consumed by TV, she playing the game. So
like video games.
Yeah, like on her iPad or whatever, like what is it, Candy Crush and all that type of stuff. Like she be playing all that. So again, like I try not to like force anything on anybody or like beat them up too much, but it's just like, bro, you got a lot of life to live, and the energy being drained in certain areas. Like I gave my mom the example of like just energy vampires with people. Like people just sapping your energy, let alone the other external distractions. So no different than what you said, like watching a movie or watching certain things on TV. It incites these underlying emotions, and you don't even know that's what you're dealing with. So
even if the TV's on in another room and you're not even actively watching it,
I can't do it. Like, I've been in this situation where like I've gone to my mom's and been trying to eat, and like TV not even necessarily be in the same room, but I can hear it, and I'm like, I can't even enjoy my meal right now because of what's going on TV. So,
and it's like, I can't consciously tune it out, but still, it's still getting into my subconscious.
Exactly.
Like, and I don't want that time.
Exactly. So, I don't know. Like, I'm very particular on what I consume now. So that's why I do like YouTube, because you can curate whatever you want to watch. And so if you're watching something stupid, that's on you. Like, I mean, in general, it's on you. But at least with this, like, I can really tune into stuff that is beneficial for me, and stuff like, let's say, even housing. Like, I love modern homes. So I'll watch videos on stuff that I would at least look forward to experiencing or something like that one day. Like it's not necessarily holding on to the fear and whatever propaganda that they putting out. Like, so I just, I'm in my own world.
That's the thing. Even nowadays, like, and I'm not even thinking about friends, just because like now my social group is people who are kind of where I'm at. Like they have similar interests and things. So like I don't often, have to come across people who just like want to go chill and do something like mindless, or watch a movie. So I did back when I was on Tinder. Like these guys hit me like, "Hey, let's go to a movie." I'm like, I can't sit through a movie. Like unless it's like it's something like truly, intriguing my mind and stimulating, which most of them aren't. I cannot sit there and waste 2 hours of my life watching a movie. I'd rather take a nap. If we want to go and I might fall asleep, don't wake me up. Like, because that's more valuable than the movie that we're watching.
For real. Like, oh my gosh, for
real. But yeah, so over time, those friends, I still have a couple of friends from like, who were friends from like high school, things like that or whatever, that might be a little somewhat closed-minded on certain things, but I see my influence on the people around me. And it's just because I'm living my life. I'm being happy. They're like, and when people see you happy, it's like, oh, okay, I might do something like that. Okay, so another aspect of evolution, religion, how has that been, since we both identify as spiritual, how has that been from you evolving from more a religious upbringing to more spiritual, free thinking?
Friend-wise, nothing really changed. Again, like I kind of feel like all of us are like evolving together too. So, like you said, kind of meshing with people who are on your same vibration and kind of have similar thoughts. Maybe not exactly the same, but like we definitely see the world a lot of the same. So that part helped with them. Family, I don't know if it's necessarily hard. Like, we don't ever really verbally talk about it. It's just more so just action based. So like, they already know I'm not going with them on Sunday. So, and they already know I got my own practices and stuff that I do. But
was there ever resistance, like, you don't come, or why aren't
when
you
I was
coming?
growing up, for sure. Like, I mean, I've always had this, I don't know, just a feeling like, why am I here? And that was stemming back since a kid. Like, and it would just be certain things, like, let's say you go to one church and they preach on one particular scripture, and then you go to another church and they preach on the same exact thing. And it's like, a lot of this stuff is repetitive. It's like, what are you really teaching me? So sometimes I just feel like I'm wasting my time. And of course, like, I'm younger, so like, I don't really know. But then as I started to get older, college and up, it would be opportunities to go to church with them. And I was like, no, I'm cool, y'all. Y'all go ahead or whatever. So like, I think after so many times of that, it was like, if you gonna do his own thing, and like, it's like, well, he's still prospering, he's still doing straight. So like, we're not really gonna press him. But I think they've also seen some things where they might have had to leave a church or move around or something, and they're like, this is a little weird, but I'm not in it, so I don't say nothing.
Yeah.
But you?
I think I definitely got some resistance earlier. Just in like, well, why aren't you going to church? It wasn't like my parents condemned me. My dad, he never really attended church anyways. But we always did with my mother. And I would always fall asleep in church. I don't know if it's a sleeping condition, but I was always asleep. But I enjoyed aspects of church. I like the feeling, you know, like, but as I got older and I stopped attending church, my mom, she did start to question her. She was like, you don't believe in Jesus anymore, Keita?
Like, see, they ain't hit me with that, but they have asked me like, well, why you ain't going to church? And I'm like, I don't have to go to church to worship. Like, I always tell
her, no, it was because I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm not a Christian anymore. She's like, well, do you believe in Jesus? And I was like, I feel like he definitely is somebody who did something, and you know, he totally could exist. But I don't feel like religion really teaches how to achieve
what that he did.
Christ. Yeah. So I'm not a Christian. But I believe in God. Well, my version of God, and not the man in the sky that other people believe. So I definitely had some resistance earlier. And now I'll still go to church. Like when I'm back in town visiting family, like I'll go to church with them because like it's still a positive place for most of society. It's a positive place where people are in there. They might be happier than they were before they came, and they feel refreshed and renewed. So I think that's great. It's just that when it comes down to certain holidays, I'm just like, these holidays are stupid. I'll come there but I'm not saying Happy Easter. I'm not saying Merry Christmas. I'll be there just to say, hey, I love you. I'm glad to see you again. I'm glad we're gathering. But and that's another challenging thing, because like there's a lot of things when you begin to evolve as a person. Some people will get on you about, well, what are your kids? What are you like eating? Like, you know,
so you're not gonna let your kids.
Yeah, you're not gonna let your kids have cake. You're not gonna let your kids have McDonald's. You know, you're not gonna have Christmas for your kids. I'm just like, but can we not give these kids goodness and have that
from
be
enough?
Yeah,
the good stuff from day one.
Yeah, and help them to see the fallacy and all the other practices. You know, drinking out of a cow.
So I've got resistance on that end for sure. But
yeah,
I think holidays. That's probably what got them somewhat questioning, like, he ain't messing with no holidays no more. And I'm just like, no, I can't mess with no pagan holidays. Like, just knowing how they started and what most of them derived from, and like what it meant to my ancestors, I can't fuck with it. So it's what it is. And so like, I think that's at that point they're like, okay, he not really on this conventional going to church every Sunday type stuff. So
I think, and that's the key to evolving, is that you just stop doing things just because someone before you was doing them. You start to actually think and analyze something like, well, why are we doing this? What about this? And then from there, you begin to then see a clearer version. You'll get more curious about exploring other options, and then you explore those other options, and you're like, wait a second, this is way better.
Right.
This makes way more sense.
Right.
But most people don't even think to question, and they just, oh, they did it, so let's do it. Like,
Yeah. But I mean, I'm with you. Like, speech. That's one area where like I evolved as far as like I don't say good morning to people. Like they'll constantly be telling me good morning, and I'll constantly respond with some other
grand
risings, happy whatever day it is,
top of the morning, top of the day,
great day, whatever. But like, it's just again knowing and
what's that? Well, good morning.
Good morning is like you're wishing somebody a sad day, like have a great day of mourning, like in the literal sense. So it's a lot of stuff that the English language for sure, like you're casting spells, you don't even know it. It's certain words that we use collectively that could be hindering us. You don't even know it. So there's a book, Conscious Language, that I was reading a few years ago. I actually owned it, but let my homie borrow it. But in Conscious Language, like it breaks down the word things. So I mean, no different than what we talked about with government. Government being the mind, governing your mental with their media and all of this stuff that we're talking about evolving away from. It all comes back to that, really.
That's deep. Yeah, I've started noticing in these more evolved groups that I'm becoming part of, I start hearing the term overstand instead of understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or understand.
Yeah.
Like you know it.
It really is a whole different language. And even as you, like, I think of evolution as in you're shedding these learned things. You're just shedding all the stuff that's kind of got you clouded and not really able to perceive life for what it is. And over time, you're doing certain things to heal and shed. And now, as you're doing that, you're able to get higher and lighter, and you're able to see things from a whole new perspective. So you might listen or watch the same movie that you watched years ago, but now as a more evolved being, you're able to perceive and receive, things completely differently.
Completely different. Have you seen The Matrix?
Of course, my favorite movies.
Like as of recent too, since you've been
I've seen it at least 3 times since I've gotten consciously on my journey.
That, Inception, and but those two for sure. Looking at it from this perspective now, bro, they literally give you the playbook. Like, here you go. So,
did you see Ready Player One?
No, I never heard of that.
A lot of people didn't see it, but it came out maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's basically
life is a video game.
Yeah, and it's just basically like, you can plug in. There's government inside the video game trying to prevent this person from reaching this highest level of like awareness and consciousness, and
I mean, it feels like a video game right now. I feel like Grand Theft Auto in real life.
That's why I wake up every morning. I would be like, I'm back, like, because it's just like I'm back to play again. Like I literally see, and I lost that during my little period of like kind of going through my stuff, but I generally felt excited to play the day, and get out and create. But yeah.
How has it been with you and the people around you as far as their receptiveness toward you becoming more entrepreneurial driven as opposed to,
Yeah, that's actually a part of the evolution that I would have never acknowledged, but it definitely has been ingrained in me, where I was always the type of person who wanted to do things kind of my way. And because if I feel inspired to do something, I don't want a system to tell me I can't do it.
Right.
So in my training program, most of the students go off to be psychologists within a medical setting or within the academic setting, things like that. I was like one of the few who was like, I want to have a private practice. They wouldn't even like teach us that as an option. But I'm like, I want to do things my own way. And at first I was a little ashamed of saying that because everyone else was doing it this route. But eventually I was like, no, I want my own private practice. And I want it to be a collective where we have massage therapists, where we have a nutritionist and all this stuff. I want to do holistic healing and use sound bowls and all stuff. And initially it was funny, like some of my colleagues, they would look at me funny, or even like when I would talk about like vaccines, they would challenge me. Yeah. And now all of them are coming to me about like crystals, all these things that at first they were like, that's weird or no, but now like they come to me about a lot of stuff.
That's impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about from the perspective, if you weren't in that class, how they would just continue to execute whatever was handed to them. Like, here, go do this. And I mean, I know even a couple people who have medical backgrounds, whether it be pharmacists, doctors, whatever. I'll share with them certain things that I've done to heal my situations, and they're just mind blown. Like, oh, I would have never thought about that, or we didn't learn this in school. And again, that comes back to all of this in the evolution piece. Question everything, even question what we saying. Go look this stuff up for yourself. It's literally 2020, and you got everything at your fingertips, for good and for bad. Like, it's almost information overload. So you being in tune with yourself and being able to discern what's right and what's wrong is key. But the information is out there. So this is not a time to be living in dark ages and all of that stuff. So I don't know. I find joy in continuing to just spread that particular light to where people see whatever you're doing, and they're like, I might need to incorporate that.
Right. So, that's the thing, is like, we mind our own business. Like, we're not worried about pressing it on anybody. Like, and that as part of that evolved being, you begin to accept everyone as they are. You respect their journey being their journey. And your primary focus is your journey, because you know that as you continue on your path, your evolution, it will positively affect other people around you without necessarily you having to actively do something. I don't have to go here and preach and do these crusades, to bring people to certain things. It's like my own evolution, my own enlightenment, my own growth. It has this vibrational ripple effect where it's going to naturally influence those around me. And in their time, their path will proceed as it needs to. But ultimately, I'm here for myself, and that's it,
And I say it all the time, but like, as selfish as it sounds, you have to be about you. Like, you have to make sure your cup is full before you can fill another's.
Right.
I mean, that's common sense.
So speaking on that and being selfish as an evolved person, how has that affected romantic relationships with you?
So again, I don't think people probably judging the word selfish already, good or bad. Selfish just means like I'm more guided towards self, like just improving of self so that I can be a benefit to others. Like I truly feel that in order for a person to truly give the best of themselves, they have to be the best version of themselves.
Right.
So relationship wise, it's made me even more picky. Like, I was picky before, but like now I'm super picky. So it's like they have to be at least in an open mind state to where they're in this evolution phase with me. Like, I'm not taking stragglers. I'm not trying to be anybody's teacher. Like, I can help guide you to certain things, but like at the end of the day, it has to be your own wants and desires to grow. So I think it's far and few with the people who might think like us. So like the pool might have shrunk a little bit, but at the same time, that's a good thing. So it's like, all right, cool. Just weeding out more and more that I wouldn't necessarily truly give my time of day to, but it also makes the brighter one stand out. So,
and like bad. You said, you are, as I've evolved and become more sure of self and selfish, recognizing that my journey and my realization of my highest expression of myself on earth is my sole purpose, and that everything else around is just excrement or it's added benefit. That allows me to not worry that I'm never going to find a mate, because it's not what I'm here for. Right. I'm going to enjoy my life, and if at some point I match up with someone, great. And when I do match up with someone, I'm able to be with them without expectation that it's going to last forever or that they need to be everything that I need them to be. I recognize and honor their journey, their own path, and with me being whole in my own path, I don't have to put that pressure on them. They don't have to be something for me because I'm going to be everything I need for myself.
Exactly.
But we can definitely enjoy this together.
Right. Yeah. I think even where that stems from, all of us have this programming, especially who are 90s babies, but watching Disney movies. They program this stuff into you to where you're sold this fairy tale lifestyle and, oh, I'm going to get married and have this white picket fence and be with this person forever and all this stuff. And that's not life.
Have kids.
Yeah. So I think part of it is again, seeing the media and the forms of entertainment as for what they are, forms of entertainment, but also understanding that there are subliminal messages and spells and whatever else that could be in it that are influencing you to think a certain way. So like it's no different than what we talked about before, but like again, not being too attached to anything while you're here. And so like when you're in a relationship or when you put a title on it, whether it be, oh, this is my girlfriend or this is my wife, it's like evolved expectations come with that. Evolved pressure comes with that. Like I don't know, like it's something that I'm not necessarily subscribing that much to no more. So like I'm one to challenge that aspect of it. Like who said marriage is actually the thing? Like
right.
How can you, or to me, I feel like it's still a way where you can be as fully committed without doing it their way.
Like, why does it be on paper?
Yeah. And again, like I'm gonna have to actually go back and do some research myself, but what were the ancestors doing?
Right.
Did they call it marriage?
Like, why do we have to wear the white dress?
All of that. All of that. I'm about to question all that now. So now I got a little bit more work to do, but
yeah.
I mean, it's no different than you hearing about kings with multiple wives and stuff like that. Like society and stuff is always changing. So
right.
I don't think you can necessarily hold on to one thing and call it finite. Like right. It's always changing. So,
and that's why it's important for you to live selfishly and find out what works for you. And everything else will, like when you are true to who you are, right. That's what evolution is all about. It's becoming a truer version of yourself. And as you do that, life makes a lot more sense. You feel a lot better because you're not subscribing to someone else's right. way of living. That most often that way is designed to keep you living in a mold, so that way you remain trapped in the matrix and you remain part of the system. But yeah, it's
Have you found evolving to be a lonely road, although we've had, friends and family with us?
It definitely is, because one is that you'll stop hanging out with certain people, and I'm not gonna pick the phone, call this person because they're gonna have a conversation that drains my energy. And it's also lonely in that I've evolved to not use people or other things as coping skills.
Yeah.
So there's times where like I'm not feeling good, so I just want to call somebody. I'm like, I'm not going to dump that energy on them.
Right.
Like when ultimately I know everything always works out. If I really need something, I have to realize I'm not alone. I have all my ancestors here with me. I have God. Everything is here. So I'm not going to use another person, just like I'm not going to use alcohol or whatever it is as a coping mechanism. So that part has been lonely in that. I don't, and I feel like a lot of people do that. We go to Tinder, or whatever it is, and we use people to help us get through things or to help us be distracted from things. And, that's just something that I've evolved out of. And also like, I remember coming here to UF, initially I was going to all the tailgates, drinking, do all this stuff. And eventually my social group got smaller because I stopped doing that. Right. I stopped going places where on time we hung out, we were drinking, and I didn't care about the conversation anyways,
Exactly. So, I mean, it's no different than even with me and drinking. Like, that's probably, I didn't even think about that. But when I stopped drinking, that's when a lot of people started falling off too. Mm-hmm. It's like you identify me with 21-year-old me instead of current. And it's like, I guess that's one thing that mutually bonded us per se. So it's like, for me, I'm not necessarily losing a person. It's like I'm just not doing that task. But for them, it's like, oh, he's no fun anymore. I mean, shit, fun is what you dictated to me. So I'm cool with that. Like who's here is meant to be here. Who's not is not. So I'm not. I don't never trip.
Do you ever compromise your practices for other people?
It's not for anybody else. It'd be for me. So like, if I went out and I wanted to have a drink, then I'll have one. But it's not. It's not gonna be because somebody wants me to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's initially like I gave myself that grace, like actually, because when I drank, I didn't like being drunk was fun. Like it was fun, but it's also very detrimental.
Yeah.
You know, so I chose my value system changed. So there are times where I will go out and I'll have like a glass of wine, or recently I went to a brunch and we had mimosas, or went out with a friend. They want to go to instead of just ordering sushi, they're like, oh, we have a sushi buffet special, all you can eat. And I'm like, do I really want all you can eat? But I did it, and I felt like crap afterwards. Right. But it made the other person feel comfortable. So that was a time where I compromised, and I shouldn't have compromised. Because I didn't want to. And I think it's a female thing. Like I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But most times I won't put myself in situations where I have to make that decision, or I'll also say, I'm sorry, I'm not drinking, or I'm not going to eat that.
It makes sense, and like I've never been one to be easily peer pressured, but let's say prior to me kind of really cutting out alcohol, it'd be the same situation. Like let's say 2 years prior, where I would go out and not necessarily want to drink, but they're like, "Oh, just have a drink," and I'm like, "All right," since I'm here, type of thing. But like now, it's really an occasion. Like I can probably count on one hand how many times I've drank in 3 years. So if it's not a special occasion or because I want to do it, I'm not doing it. Not for networking, not to make nobody feel good. Like I already know what certain things will do. It's no different than me not eating that cookie sitting right there. It's gonna be good, but like I already know what it's gonna do to me. So like at the end of the day, for your comfortability of me, I'm not doing something. So I'm very much take it or leave it.
I feel like that's what evolving is all about. It's like showing up for yourself. Like knowing if there's this other step you can take that's gonna be good for you and it's right for you, that you take that step, even though it might be painful to seem painful or sacrificial in the moment, but truly it's not.
I'm also different too because I'm my only child. I don't care. Like I really don't care. Like I've always been by myself. I came in by myself. I'm going out by myself. So again, it's like a take it or leave it thing. Like I'm always, anybody who knows me, pure heart. Like I only want the best for people. So I'm never gonna have ill will or ill intentions. So in that aspect, like I really feel like you gotta take me as I come, sort of thing. Like if you don't mess with it.
Yeah. And I have a friend like that, like where she gets very upset when people perceive ill of her character. And like, if you know your character and you know you're trying, like it don't matter what anyone perceives. People are gonna perceive how they want to perceive. And that's their right. And it's also, you can't control that because everyone is coming with this different history, different perspective, different conditioning, to where they might not be able to see things as you see them. So you have to relieve yourself of that, of caring what people think and their opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody is self-conscious in some form or fashion. Like, I don't know if anybody ever truly loses.
So I think it's one of the human needs. The human needs is acceptance.
I mean, even at the end of the day, like you're gonna put on some clothes that look solid, or even if you don't put on some clothes, like you might have something where, oh, I want my hair to look a certain way. Like you're self-conscious in some form or fashion, but in the grand scheme of things, I really don't care. Like, I mean, that's your perspective. That's no different than if you have an idea with somebody and like, let's say you go to your friend or your family, like, hey, I want to start this business. And like, well, dang, I don't know how you would do that or whatever. They're projecting their fears onto you. So that's why, like, depending on who the person is, I'm not sharing certain stuff because I already know your mindset and how you're going to respond to it. So I'm very selective on what conversations I have and with what people. But again, like my core group of friends, we're aligning. Like,
Right.
I mean, we've always been pretty much in alignment, but like everybody is progressing. Like everybody's about moving in the moment, moving forward. It's not about harping on the past or whatever happened or none of that. Like it's just right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's beautiful. So, we've kind of talked about how through our evolutions, how that's affected our relationship with friends, with family, maybe even coworkers. Why do you think that? And it kind of touches on the journey being lonely. Why do you feel like there are
the disconnect.
Yeah, changes in their relationships over time as you evolve?
People are uncomfortable with change.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people are happy with status quo. Most people are just comfortable with how, I mean, just, as is, like I said, status quo. But when they see you changing and it's for the better, but they're not moving, I think it's more so like, oh, this person is changing. It's like, no, this person has evolved. This person has grown.
Mm-hmm.
Why have you not done the same?
So it's shining a light on what they're not doing.
Exactly. So I think a lot of people don't really want to deal with the shadow aspect of themselves. And again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with things being labeled as good and bad. The bad things happen to you so you can learn and grow from them. So it's like, how are you actually taking what you deem as an L? Um, or how are you taking things that you deem as a win? Like for me, I've become more of somebody who's just like even keel. Like I don't let myself get too high. Definitely don't let myself get too low. So I mean, just kind of riding a straight wave in a sense to where it's just kind of stoicism in a sense.
Mm-hmm. It's balance.
Yeah, just balance.
Yeah, and I think I definitely agree because I think when people see you like your light, as your light gets brighter, it makes people acknowledge that their light isn't as bright, and it's only not that bright because they're standing in their own way. And it's painful to acknowledge that you're the only one standing in your way when you're not willing to make the changes you need to make. And I think when I noticed that pain, like for me, one of my biggest things that kind of really ignited some of my evolution was being somebody who had social anxiety and seeing how it affected my romantic relationships, where I would be insecure about my body or not go to parties or be afraid to stand up and volunteer in class or give speeches, even though I was in a PhD program and I always had great luck with relationships. I noticed that I was living in this bubble because of my anxiety. So and my anxiety was uncomfortable, and so were the situations that would challenge my anxiety. But the pain of living this life in this bubble was more painful and more uncomfortable than doing these things that were uncomfortable. So like when I started modeling, like that was hell of uncomfortable. Or sitting there recording videos of myself and rehearsing speeches over and over again until like I sounded clear or whatever, and rewatching those things, like that was uncomfortable. But I rather deal with that discomfort than that comfort of the discomfort of stagnation. Like I don't want to. And now when I notice myself feeling that way, I'm like, okay, I gotta make progress on something. And that's where I heard someone else talking about it, where the progress is where people start to feel happy. Like you want to constantly be in motion, constantly be progressing in some aspect of your life, or else you're going to be unhappy.
Yeah, and I think even it's balanced to goal setting in that sense, because it's like you're always chasing something to where it's like, well, when is it a time for you to be content with what you have and like with how things are? But I'm in the same boat. Like I've always been like that. I don't like feeling stagnant or content with less than what I feel like I deserve or where I should be at. And like that's been part of my I'll say downfall from a personal mental perspective, but it's just having certain expectations of where I should be on myself. And it's like you can have a goal or a sight in mind, but like having the attachment that if it doesn't work out, that life is over sort of thing. And you can't have that much buy into it. So you have that buy in to where it's just like, damn, nothing is working. you might not die from it, you might not go that drastic, but like in my situation, I internalized all that stress and it ended up causing digestive issues. So for me, it was like, okay, let me figure out like what I need to do to align with my purpose. And then, like you said, identify what am I doing perpetually that's making this situation bad, if not worse.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, well, you're eating like trash. That's step one. And then it's like, all right, take yourself out of this toxic work environment. That was step two. So I mean, everybody is unique. Everybody's situation is gonna be different. It's no different than you putting yourself in those situations with your classmates. No different than me and you doing the pod. Like I know the first episode, it's like, bro, this is super uncomfortable. Like to be on camera recording, like that's just not me. Like I don't want to be in front of the camera. Like I've always been somebody who would much rather prefer to be behind the scenes. But people are like, oh, just get on camera, go do this. So it's not like I'm a perfect human being. I'm constantly evolving. This is an evolution. So kind of with that being said, I think we gave them enough. This is the evolution. So
and one thing we're gonna go into is talk about some tools you've helped in your evolution. But I would say one key thing, and we've talked about the discomfort. Discomfort literally is something that I embrace so much now. Like whenever I feel uncomfortable about something, I'm like, whoop, light goes on. Okay, what do I need to pick up here? What do I need to perceive here? Okay, now let's go. Like discomfort is never a turnaround, go the other way for me anymore. It's like, okay, let's go one more step further. Okay, let's go one more step further. And as I've done that, it's just like, and that's why I've evolved at a rapid rate. As soon as I like started picking up on certain tools, my evolution was so rapid. And even the video I showed you that the videographer made of me, he was saying, he was like, who is this person? Because he's done videos. Confidence. Yeah, he did videos of me sometime last year. He was like, you know, you're like, it's just it. And then Aranisha too, she was like, this video is like so amazing. Like it's a different person. I'm like, I've been evolving this time, and now it's being captured on camera. So yeah, like definitely go towards that discomfort. So let's close it out with some tools to help. That's some certain things, that tangible things, resources that you've used to evolve.
Depending on who you ask and who you go to, books.
Yep. Reading. Yep.
Yeah, I think like even a book as simple as The Alchemist.
That was my first book on my journey, conscious journey.
Yeah, that and From Babylon to Timbuktu were like the first two that I started with, and even still till this day, especially post teens, that's probably the only fiction book I've read. Mm-hmm. Incredible read, but books. I think if you listen to the right music, you can definitely evolve. Depending on who you're tuned into,
Big Sean.
I was gonna say, if you go back and start with Big Sean's catalog at like Finally Famous Volume 3 and go forward, like he talking about some stuff. Finally Famous, the album.
Was Kanye West College Dropout?
College Dropout is good. Nas, Illmatic, Jay-Z. You got oh my gosh, Wu-Tang Clan got stuff. Tribe Called Quest. Mm-hmm. Kendrick, J. Cole, who else has it? Wiz. Y'all know I ain't gonna leave out Hendrix. Future even be talking about some stuff, believe it or not. Mm-hmm.
On the female side,
you got I was about to get into Lauryn
Hill, Erykah Badu,
Aaliyah,
yeah, Janae Aiko for New Age.
Big facts.
What's her name? Danny Lee. She talks a lot about like manifesting inner grind. Who am I leaving on? India Reed, Jill Scott. Yeah. So okay, so music. Okay, so we got
Nina Simone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so music,
books. Anything utilizing your senses, basically. So I mean, you can watch stuff. You can go out in nature. I think taking walks, exercising, doing yoga, meditating, like all of these things help with eating better,
Mm-hmm.
getting sleep, actually getting proper sleep, and even hydrating. Like
Taking my
all of that
sleep
stuff.
seriously was a big game changer. In allowing it to do what it's supposed to do, but also then I started doing some dream analysis,
Mm.
and that was helpful too. It's another reflective exercise, just like journaling. Journaling, I go back and I've read some of my journals the other day from back in 2018, and just to see my growth and see the things I was doing, it's beautiful to go back and see these changes over time, and to remember the things you were doing, the things that you are now doing. Um, what other things are some good tools?
And I know we didn't talk about like, or you kind of mentioned it earlier, but inspirational talks. Like even
Oh
when you wake up
yeah,
in the morning or before you go to bed, listen to something that's going to inspire you or motivate you to do whatever it is that you're aiming to do.
that was actually
Um,
how I started my more conscious journey. Where it was rapid fire was. I remember a friend came over and we were listening to the video where it's like the Master Your Fate,
oh yeah.
that one. And from there, the guy I was dating at the time, and he was actually going through a depressive episode, like serious depressed, like on medication, like the depression was resistant to medication. And all it took was us just reprogramming our minds every single morning. We put on one of those motivational videos, and
Mm-hmm.
we did it every single day. And both of us, like, he moved across the country, pursued his dreams, and has never had those issues again.
Wow.
And he's still like, and everybody goes through emotional periods, but for someone who was like ready to just be like over it all,
Now I've been there.
all
I
it
talk
takes is,
about me being depressed. I've been there.
yeah, it
Like,
just takes reprogramming your mind,
yeah.
finding your purpose, and then just realizing there's so much more here to life. So yeah, the motivational videos, that's something that, and I definitely listen to that every single day. I was just doing Abraham Hicks, which he talks a lot more about like law of attraction and things like that. But now I've started adding back in my motivations because I kind of needed it.
Yeah.
I needed the extra motivation, so now I'm adding back in my motivational talks. Yeah, like just reprogram your mind as much as you can. Just like, and that's why YouTube is a great source because you can choose exactly and control what content you're receiving on YouTube. What other tools? Talked about yoga, body movement. Definitely want to have some type of exercise regimen, spending time in nature, um, food.
Detox.
Yeah.
Detox yourself. Herbs. Do a gut cleanse, parasite cleanse. Um, I think just the clarity that you'll get from a lot of levels, like from the things that you're eating and how it's affecting you and how you're thinking to the emotions you deal with. You might be somebody who's emotional, like myself, who processes them internally, as opposed to somebody who's just wearing their emotions on their sleeves and it's going off at the cuff. Like, I think you get a better understanding of how you operate, how you think, and how you're able to control that stuff.
I would say another one, spend time with yourself. Because the
That
thing is,
time of
like,
isolation, I mentioned that before.
yeah, because
Isolate.
you don't know who you are. You don't realize how much other people are influencing you until you're on your own. You can truly make decisions like, I want to do this because I want to do it at this time because I want to do it at that time. We don't realize how much we depend on other people.
Right.
So when you can truly become thinking only for yourself, you can then start to question certain things and you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll do this because it's feeding me my soul in this way. Um, yeah.
One thing I like to do too in the morning is what are 5 things that I'm gonna do that day to make me feel good, or even just asking yourself like, what does Blair want to do today?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would be fun for Blair to do, and then really thinking on that, and then doing that, and then as you're doing that activity, whatever you deem to be fun, other stuff starts flowing too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
again, it's aligning with things that you want to align with, not focusing on the fears or, oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't happen, or oh my gosh, this worrying about this and stressing about this. Like, you're only perpetuating and causing that type of event to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
detaching from that and really focusing on what we're trying to build.
Yeah. And I think another one that we haven't touched on, which I'm surprised you didn't touch on, tarot cards, numerology, all these things that can really be a guide to help you get clarity on your own inborn habits or things that you're predisposed to, and just having that awareness of them, you can kind of get out ahead and not become victim to certain situations, and or even just approach a situation differently, to where now you can make a decision that's more informed and conscious.
Yeah, I didn't really touch on that. Like, we gave him a lot. So, depending on where you're at, yeah, you might want to look into tarot cards and numerology and stuff. But if you're just getting started, say that. You're not trying to touch all that just yet.
Yeah.
But it is a powerful tool. And, I mean, to me, the most, I say the most, yeah, I gotta say it's probably the most insightful, but human design. I used to always wonder, like, why I didn't have energy like everybody else to do certain things, or I would just have a burst of energy. And like, I still work like that. Like, if I know I got to do something and I'm procrastinating on it, I think it's just subconsciously I know, like, whenever I touch it, it's gonna get done, and it's gonna get done quick.
Right.
So why am I just gonna, do it right there in that moment? So that's a balancing thing for me. But
all right, we gave y'all all everything you need for your evolution. And just remember, like, this is what we're here for. Like, you should always be making progress. If you're feeling unhappy and dissatisfied with life, it's probably because you're not making progress on becoming the best version of you. And only you know what that looks like. So you can't turn to someone else. And because only you know what that looks like means you need to follow that. And in following that, that might separate you from your friends and your family, but that's just something that comes with the territory. Eventually, you'll find your tribe. It's inevitable. You'll attract the people who are aligned with that. And eventually, like us, our family has, definitely come more in line with our changes in our beliefs as we've evolved. And it's a beautiful journey to experience. It makes life a lot more beautiful when you know that you are continuing to learn and be curious, and discover new things as you become more of yourself.
for sure. So y'all have a good week. As always, question everything, look up some stuff, comment, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Peace and love.
Peace.